Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hear Our Voices. Thank you for coming out this week. We have so many things in store for you, and I hope you're liking the season 3, to be honest. We put a lot of effort and time into these podcasts, and we hope we're giving you the best information that we actually can give you. And I hope the information is helping you. I hope the stories are inspiring you. I hope that anything we give on this platform can help you make your life better, or you could take a tip from what we give you to better you and your family's lives in shelter or out of shelter. So let's get some things in the way. Welcome back again. As I said, is your host Kay Did coming back out to you. And also, please follow us on our social media platforms. We do YouTube, we do Facebook, we do Instagram, we do TikTok, and we do. I feel like that's it. Probably. Sorry, guys. We do a lot of different things. Also, in the description box down below, there will be information about resources that you and your family can get. Um, we mostly go on family homelessness, but some of the resources do cross paths with single people. So if you want to look through that, you can. If you know anybody who wants to get resources, we can definitely get that link out to you. If you want to follow us on social media, again, everything will be down below. And if you're a person who wants to share your story anytime about being homeless in the US, we definitely love to have you. If you are couch surfing, that's considered homelessness. If you're a person in shelter, if you're on the street homelessness, we do take all stories if you'd like to give that out. If not, it's fine. Just you listening to what we have to say works for us. If you're a person with resources, we would love to have you, or you can just give us a resource so we could put down below in our resource packet so it could be able to help out other people, other families out here in New York City. So today we have a guest. Her name is, I forgot when butcher it. Diana Mendez. She's an advocate, a person who helps people with
Specialist.
advocacy. Sorry, she'll tell you more about her. I feel like I'm going to butcher the whole name. I'm sorry, guys. Um, but yeah, she'll tell you more about what she does, and we'll get into the podcast, guys. Stay tuned. Yes. What's your title again?
So can you see my name? Do you see it says New York City Regional Family Advocate Specialist? Can you see it? If you
I
tap
can
my
see
name?
it. I kind of
Um,
see it. I wear glasses and I wear contacts, and I don't have either of them on, so
Okay,
I can't see it. Yes.
okay. Not a problem. I'll introduce myself with the title.
Yes. So, can you tell me a little bit of what you do for your job and how you help families advocate for themselves?
Okay. My job as a family peer, regional family peer advocate is to actually help families, especially parents that are in need of special education services. Being a parent myself with a 27-year-old on the spectrum, I realized that when I try to get resources for him, it was navigating the systems was a nightmare, and so I decided to become a self advocate, and I said to myself, you know what, from this point on, I'm going to educate myself and I'm going to actually help parents who reach out to me and show them, the best that I can, how to navigate systems. And so I noticed that I had my son that I could have diagnosed him at 6 months, and I almost waited a year and a half. And then when I learned of his diagnosis, I panicked, and I put him in the first neighborhood school, and not realizing that it wasn't good, that he needed to be around people with the same diagnosis. And then I also noticed that there was a disparity with the classes. There wasn't inclusion classes, which are usually you have 20 kids mixed together with children with special needs or learning differences. And I noticed that although my son was in a 6 1-to-1, which means 6 kids, one teacher, one special ed teacher, he was picked for an inclusion classroom, but the problem was that my local school in Queens did not have inclusion. So, long story short, I actually had to find families that had special needs kids, and under the federal law of FAPE, which is free and appropriate education, my son was entitled to be in his local school with his sister. He has a sister that was 2 years older than him. And
Mhm.
so I fought with the principal. I got involved with the superintendent, and one thing that I do want to say is that we all are entitled to the Americans Disability Act to learn the laws, learn what No Child Left Behind means, know what IDEA means, which is Individuals Disabilities Educational Act. And so when I first started to learn more about my son's challenges, which were behavioral challenges, he wasn't really able to sit and learn, and he was distracting his sister. I fought to get applied behavioral analysis, but the problem was that the school was not gonna allow me to get those services because he was already in a specialized classroom. So I actually, you know, fought through an impartial hearing, and I was able to get, some ABA teachers in my home. And I learned about ABA. I also converted my apartment into pictures because he wasn't able to point or let me know what his needs were. That was part of why he was so angry.
Right.
So I basically, once I learned everything that was going on in the services as he got older, I realized that the services were getting harder and harder. But I also educated myself, making sure that when I sat at these meetings, I would not just sit with the special ed teacher, the speech, the counselor. I was prepared by having a 6-inch binder in
Oh,
which,
wow.
yes, a 6-inch binder, and inside of that binder had all the doctor's reports, all the special ed evaluations. I had proof of all the documents back and forth that were certified that I had sent to these different facilities, asking to get help. I
Right.
also um, I also made sure that I had a picture of my son, that an 8 by 10. And so when we began the process of sitting down with this IEP, which is Individual's Educational Plan,
Mhm.
and there's also another one. If you get your child diagnosed early, that becomes an early intervention plan.
Yes.
Either way, I learned, through going to meetings, that when I present myself, I was prepared, but also I would have a picture, an 8 by 10 of my son, and I let them know that this was the individual, that he was a human being, and this was the individual that was needing services, and he was not able to verbalize. So I was here as his advocate, to get what I needed. Now, my son was diagnosed with autism,
Mhm.
and if anyone does want to learn more about this diagnosis, what helped me was when I first learned about the diagnosis, I was numb, I was scared. It wasn't something that people were talking about back in 1996. And
Right.
so for like a month, I just shuffled around, but at the same time, I watched how my family was just going downhill. And so I said, that's enough. I got to do what I got to do. And I went to Barnes and Nobles, and I would say by fate, by luck, I found the book called Thinking in Pictures, The Story of Temple Grandin. And in doing so, I read the book front and back, and I converted my living room into pictures. And the
Mhm.
pictures that I had were the things that he needed.
Right.
And I also took pictures of him because he loved as a young kid to read. He loved Thomas the
Oh,
Tank. He loved books. So I had all of that. And looking back now, I can't believe it took 5 years for him to point, and I was devastated, but I was determined to help him regardless. And if they said no, I said yes, and I gave them a why. And
right.
what I realize now, looking back, that if we invest on our children, whether it be a child with bipolar, with mental illness, with autism, with speech delays, with dyslexia, that we can actually invest in the money now, and
Right.
we will see the how all this work that we put in, and yes, of course, it costs money, but at the end, they do prevail. And I gotta say that my son is a perfect example of that, because he went from not speaking to becoming a motivational speaker,
Oh,
to
wow.
becoming, yes, to becoming, he went to school. He does poetry. He
Oh,
does public speaking, and he's now a provisional youth peer advocate.
ooh,
So he's like, you know what? I need to pay this forward.
that's nice.
Unfortunately, he was bullied, like many our children are
Yeah.
when they're on the spectrum. So he does suffer from post-traumatic stress, and that's okay. He's got his good days and bad days, and
Right.
I just roll with it. And actually, he just moved about 2.5 years ago on his own.
Okay,
So
fancy.
he moved in an IRA, and with a friend that he knows, and now he's looking to move independently. But
Mhm.
he shops. He's working right now with a youth, and it's very gratifying, and it was a long, long journey. But what I want to say is, don't give up and educate yourself. There's a book called The Commissioner's Regs on Special Education. And when I would show up to these meetings, besides having the binder with everything that was organized from the most recent to when he first started with early intervention, but
Yeah.
also, working, you got to work with them. You can't go in these meetings as upset as I was because he wasn't getting the services that he needed. It's a give and take. And so you can't go in there angry, upset, because it doesn't get you nowhere. So the advice that I want to give is be prepared. And the way I looked at it was like, oh my God, looking back, there were like 7 people in the room against me and my husband. And but look at the results. So never give
Right.
up, never give up.
Right.
Educate yourself. When I would go in these meetings, I had the binder, I had his picture, and then I would take out little booklets, and those booklets were the Americans Disability Act law, FAPE, Free and Appropriate Education. I had the booklet No Child Left Behind. I had a booklet with IDEA, Individuals Disability Act. And then inside the book, I had the most current IEPs. Now, what
Okay.
I found and I experienced one time was I was getting ready to have his plan. You have it every year.
Right.
And as I'm comparing last year's goals page by page, I realized that, they had recycled his IEP. So the advice that I give to parents is
Right.
when you see, like I saw that now my son was holding a pencil without supports, and I'm like, but why is the same thing on here? He's moved
Right.
on to a pen. So my advice is, as tired as you are, before your meeting, a month before, you prepare yourself, you go through each and every piece of paper. If your child has serious behavioral problems, in school, that he can't do it, or he's distracting other kids, there should be a functional behavioral plan in place.
Right.
Now, a lot of teachers do not like to check that box off on the IEP, but sometimes our children do need, you know what? My child is interfering with not only just his education, but with others. And a lot of parents don't know this, and I'm not sure because this was 1996. Okay,
Right.
he's almost 30 now, but I remember that I had to come to terms with him not being able to do 20 math questions. So there's a section at the beginning of the IEP that talks about lowering the grade point average. So instead of him doing 20 math questions, he was able to do 10 of the same
Okay.
until he mastered it. Math is
Right.
not an easy subject to
It's
begin with.
not.
Okay. And thinking back now as I say that, he was in school. and still struggling with the math, and then the statistics came into play. And then I also just see a lot of discrepancies, a lot of siloing going on with the Office of Disabilities. And
Right.
how I know this is because I stopped going to college to help my son for almost 9 years. And in the
Wow.
process of doing the paperwork for him, because he graduated in June, and I was at LaGuardia Community College. I said, wait a minute, I'm doing all this paperwork for him, but what about me? He's okay now. What about your education? And
Right.
so I enrolled in the same college like him because my records were there. And it was amazing because he took human services mental health and I took child psychology.
Oh, wow.
And so there was a lot of classes that he took that I took and vice versa. So there were times that we would see each other in the hallway and we make believe that we didn't know each other, like,
That's
but
funny.
it worked itself out. And I was part of that office for, people with disabilities. And um I saw a lot of unjust things that were being done, not just to my son, but even myself. I was like, and before I forget, this is very, very important.
Right.
When your child is like 14 years old, 14, 15 years old, and he does have a disability, and you're going to have that triennial IEP, which is basically they the school team is going to sit with you and decide what is it that your child wants to do. Does your child want to go to college, or does your child want to try a different profession, or just strictly work in construction, which is okay.
Right.
But a lot of people miss this opportunity, and I would say that the Department of Education really has to take into consideration to let the parents know not to try to miss this meeting, even if they have to do it in the evening. But this meeting is important because this is the roadmap for them when they become adults.
Mm-hmm.
And some schools will tell the parent, you know what, he's 14 years old. Maybe he can't do school. Maybe he should get that credentialed diploma.
Right.
But they don't tell you that that diploma. And it depends because I really respect this field, and there are children with learning disabilities, children with autism, with other stuff that maybe they're not cut out to do schoolwork.
Right.
And that's okay too. But I
Right.
was almost convinced to a point, 99.9%, that I was just gonna say, you know what, forget this. He's not gonna do a local diploma, and let him just get into construction or whatever.
Right.
And the teachers were also telling me, you know what, this is the time, wait, he's really going through a lot of changes. Maybe you should really just get him an IEP diploma. And I thank God, I really thank God that I decided, because I was even told, you know what, he's going through, growing pains at 14. Yes, they are going through
Right.
growing pains. And I was so close to saying yes to the credential diploma. And then I said, no, we're going to try.
Right.
And to my surprise, um, my son didn't tell me anything, but he actually got his local diploma. And then he
Mhm.
worked on his regent's diploma. He didn't tell me nothing until he showed up. He said, look what I got for you.
He did
And
better than me.
it was
I didn't
cute.
even try for that. I was like, never mind.
I was very upset with it because if you go to Jersey, and Jersey doesn't even have regents diplomas.
Yeah.
Well, again, you talk about the disparities, the injustices, but that was a great surprise, and also it was hard, and a lot of people overlook even the siblings,
Mm.
that the siblings are being affected because they're embarrassed. They
Right.
have friends, and another piece that's so important is that social piece.
Right.
Like I would read the diagnosis. I actually got to a point that I got disgusted, and I said, you know what? In school, all the families are getting invited to birthday parties, but none of our children were. So I opened a support group, and I had about 15 parents, and we would get together and we would prepare for our meetings. We would have celebrate their birthdays. And it was such a special time. They all grew up. Some of them went to college, and so the group did break up, but we still keep connected, some of us. But it got to that point that I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to find a way to help these parents and myself, because some of the parents had children that the kids were older than mine. So
Right.
when I would welcome them into my apartment, my son would take the kids in the room and do gaming, and some were artists, and then I would grab the parents and learn what was going to happen in 2 years. So I would be prepared. And then I would also help those newcomers that because this is uncharted
It
waters.
is.
It's bad enough that you have a child and you're not given any instructions, and then you throw the mix of having someone with special needs, and it's very, very, very difficult. I am not gonna lie. And something else that I did do, I knew that eventually I had to tell my son that he had autism. And so you're not going
He
to tell
didn't
him in
know?
your,
I'm confused. Wouldn't you not know
no,
you have that? Or you can't tell?
no, they know, but they need affirmation. They need
Oh,
it confirmed. So I set myself up. I set myself up I said, when he's 11 years old, I, as a mother's intuition, I said, this is going to be it. So what I did was, I had my computer open and I had two tabs open. I had one with with autism diagnosis, all the 7 characteristics, and then the second one that I had was all the people, Einstein, Van Gogh. There was so many people on the spectrum,
right,
and so I wanted him to also see that this is not a death sentence. You're wired differently, but
right,
but you're also a genius, And so how my approach was, and this came out in the Department of Ed, under the newsletter back in, I think, 2009. But I asked him, I says, Mark, um, do you feel different? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you feel like when you're in school that you're treated differently? Like you don't belong. Everything was a yes, yes, yes. So I grabbed him by the hand and I said, come here, let me show you what's going on.
right,
And so I opened the computer and I showed him, I says, look, this is what's going on. I said, you have autism. And these are the things that you had, these are the things that you had. So no eye contact. I said, nope, now you look at me. You had no voice. Now you can talk. You couldn't play with other kids, now you could do that. So I showed him that, let's say, out of the 10 characteristics, he was down to 3,
right,
and that it was okay because we're all unique.
right,
Then I opened the other tab and I said, check out all these people that have autism spectrum like you. And then as he was growing up, um, my advice also is never look at the disability, but look at the abilities. What is it that they like?
right,
Now I noticed that Mark was into books. Okay.
right,
And so, and I also videotaped them because I could go back and I could really see, where I was going right, where I was going wrong. But I noticed when it was time for Christmas and we would all get together as a family, unless it was Thomas the Tank, because that's what I use as a reinforcer. Now, there was times that my son just refused to do certain things. So I would invest, I'd take him out, let's say to Rockefeller Center, wherever they sell toys, 99 cents toy. And if he saw a toy that he liked, I would buy it and I would use that. And I would make it valuable by using it only if I saw that he was sitting down, and even if it was for 5 minutes. And I says, you know what, when you're done, I'm gonna give you this toy. And then I would put a timer. You know, you sat for 5 minutes, you're gonna get to play with this toy for 5 minutes. I know a lot of people are not into ABA. You look it up, and the mice, and you give them chocolates and this, but there's ways that you can change the way it's taught. It's very, very important. And before I forget, I started to mention that I went to Barnes and Nobles and I found the book Thinking in Pictures, which is the story of Temple Grandin. And so, as I said, I used that book to help me with my son, and my husband and I, we put the living room into almost a preschool. But the beauty behind this story is that 7 years ago, they actually made a movie. So if anyone wants to learn more about autism, the movie again is called Thinking in Pictures, and the actress that plays Temple Grandin is Claire Danes, Clare. Her last name is Danes, Danes. She's an actress that once you see her, you'll know who she is. But the reason why I mention it is because when we all saw the movie, we cried, but more importantly, my son said, "This is it. This is the movie that the teachers need to see, the doctors, the providers. They all need to see this movie so they understand and get into our head."
I have a question. Why did he wait that long to tell him? Because I would assume that. Well, obviously I don't have autism. So I don't know what they're capable of assuming. But why would you not tell your child younger than telling him so late? Because I have something also, like I had JRA. I was born with certain things, but like as I was younger, I knew what the stuff was. Also, I visually, my eyes are bad. I could visually see that something's wrong, so that could also be differently than what's in your mind. So why did you wait to go that long by telling him?
I waited. I waited because something like this, it's like telling someone you have breast cancer,
Right.
okay? And you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And the reason why I waited was because I needed to comprehend. Some kids at 9 years old, especially when you're on the spectrum, you're delayed 2 years, most of our kids. And so for me to throw this information on him, I needed him to be mature to even sit. Remember, he wasn't sitting, he was all over the place. So it's important. There's a time and place for everything. And in this case, I saw him maturing around 10, 11. This was all planned out. But I wasn't going to tell him at 7 or 8 years old. No way. No way. Now that's up to the parent. Absolutely. But I thought about, if I played it out in my head and I said, if I tell him this now, he can get depressed. He can not just get depressed, but he can act out even more. So that was my reasoning. Another reason was that my son and I, as a family unit, I do believe that a family that prays together stays together. And every night, I would sit with my kids, and especially Mark, and I says, well, how was your day? And he told me, my day was not a good day. As a matter of fact, this world is not a good world. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, well, I didn't want to tell you I love you, and I didn't want to hurt you, but I've been bullied since the first grade. I'm like, what? I said, get up from the bed. Let's talk. When did this happen? How did this happen? He explained, some of the teachers themselves would embarrass him.
The teachers too? Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
yes, yes.
That is
But
sad. I'm sorry if you're
yeah,
an educator who's listening to this. I don't, if that's your job, there to uplift the kids, not put them down, because wherever you say can affect them for the rest of their lives, and it's not right. I'm just putting it out there. But that
Yes.
hurts my heart. Like,
Yes, yes. So, so in learning this, he was explaining to me, well, you remember when you put me in the center to help me socialize? Well, I wasn't doing the right thing, and one of the leaders there, they slammed me down, body slammed me, and a lot went on. And this is why he suffers from post-traumatic stress, the bullying of the kids, making fun, and it's very hard. And so another advice that I want to give is if you have your child, that goes to school and let's say he loves his red Snickers and he's always, there's a certain age where they want to look good, and then all of a sudden you see them withdrawn, that's a red flag. Don't just choke it up and say, oh, you know what? This is growing pains. Something might be happening in school,
right.
okay? Because he was also bullied in on the bus and everything. And so I go back to, what about the bus matrons? Where were they at? But I, as a child, was also bullied to a point that the teachers had to walk me home. So I could
Wow.
relate. In the 60s, I was bullied really, really bad. And so I totally understood what my child was going through. And so look for those red flags. You make sure you look for those red flags because they're real. They're real. And what I learned now, I question like a lot of things, and I realize that we're all unique, and not everybody wants to be around people,
That's
and
true.
that's okay.
It is.
That's okay. Just don't isolate yourself, because you know what? I truly believe that for every person that's in this world, there's somebody out there for you.
It's true. It's definitely true.
But you also got to put your best foot forward too. There's a lot of meetup groups. There's people tell me, that they have teenagers where they want them to find love. There's you want to learn about it. There's Love on the Spectrum, Netflix.
Mhm.
Okay, and you can see how people on the spectrum are looking for love. It's a beautiful show. It's a beautiful show. But anything, you know, there's another way to help someone that you want to get out of the show. There's two New York City programs. Those programs are called Epic Players, New York City Epic Players, and then you have the All Stars Project. The
Okay.
All Stars Project is well known, and what it is for inner city clubs, kids from New York City,
Mhm.
and they teach you how to do acting. They're
Yeah.
on 42nd and Ninth Avenue, and this also helped my son and Epic Players. They're free acting programs. Get them involved, get them out of their shell. There's acting classes in schools, there's plays that children should get involved with. And it's not just on the spectrum. Anyone with any disability should have the right to join these classes.
Right.
Just like anyone, they should be able to play basketball with their peers. We don't see enough of that. And it's hard because as a parent, caught between a rock and a hard place, because you need them to fall, you need them to learn. They get embarrassed if you're constantly, rooting for them, advocating for them. And so one of the things that I also did was once I had the talk with my son, to let him know what he had, his diagnosis, I would actually get involved with the city council on special education, get involved with the PTAs in the school. Um, if there was going to be a presenter, that had anything to do with autism to help them understand, some individuals on the spectrum are keynote speakers for, let's say, YAI, Young Adult Institute. And I would show my son, and I says, look, I said, you see that man speaking? I said, he's on the spectrum like you. Look at the way he talks. Look at the body language. Look how he commands the audience. You know, he's talking about his experience. You're going to have to learn this because you're going to have to advocate for yourself. I'm not going to be around forever.
Right.
And as he got older, I started to teach him how to cook, hand over hand. Take out your marble notebook. This is how you do rice. This is how you do vegetables. And he's a vegan now. It's funny. But he learned how to cook. He learned how to cook. He learned how to travel. I was also asked, do you want your child travel trained in public school? And I was like, no, I don't know want to do this. But I signed the document and I left it in God's hands. And he takes us places. He knows how to work the MTA, through Google Maps, but he knows how to take the train and the bus.
That's good. I have a
Yes.
question. It
Mhm.
was way in the beginning though. So you said you could tell by 6 months that something was different. And you had an older daughter, so you could probably tell, even though all kids are made differently, you could tell the difference of where the milestones were not getting, hit. That doctor asks you, is this child doing this? If you don't know if your child is, when you go to the pediatrician, they check these kind of boxes like, can they pick up Cheerios? They ask you simple questions to see where your child is at. Can they say a certain amount of words by like a year or something like those things? How can
The
you
milestones.
also
Now,
with the people with denial? Some people denial what their kids are actually going through and they really need help. How can you help a parent like that?
okay, so I lucked out because since I had a daughter that was 2 years older than him, I noticed that he wasn't doing the things that she was doing. At a year old, she was doing puzzles, she was talking to me, and I would put them both in the same playpen. And it was like she didn't even exist. So that was the first red flag.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first red flag. And I have to say, I go back to what I originally said that, of course, it hurts to know the truth, but you are doing an injustice if you know and you can see that your child is not speaking and there's services out there to help. A lot of people don't want to label their children, and that was another thing that I struggled with. That he was just on his IEP, he was a child with a disability. And one of the principals to tell me, you know what? If you want to get the right services and you want to help your child that's nonverbal, put the word autism on the IEP. And
Right.
once I did, all services were open to
Right.
me. And again, whatever you put in, the time that you invest, the time that you invest in your child, you reap what you sow. My son is a perfect example of that. That he's
I
out the house, that he graduated from college. He still, if he wants to do his bachelor's, he can go for it. Very respectful, motivational speaker, youth peer advocate, paying it forward.
I believe, guys, for your children, they come in the world, they can't advocate for themselves. But you being their parent, you have to be their first advocate, and they have to see how you're doing it to replicate advocate for themselves as they get older. Um, you have to make sure any services, any questions you might have, you can Google it. Call 311. These services are for you. Don't wait till they get to elementary school. I'm not saying if they go elementary school and get them services, then it's going to be too late. No, I'm just saying your child are years behind because they didn't get these services as young as possible. Babies, children are like sponges. They are, especially nowadays. These kids are just woof. But these babies are like sponges. The earlier you can get them intervention for walking, for speech, anything like that is the best. As soon as possible is the better outcome for your child to do things much faster. They're still gonna learn on their particular speed, but if the earlier you get these things put into place, the better they can be. And don't be embarrassed. Everybody's different. Everybody got a problem. Everybody has something. Your child is, or person that you know, because it could be one of your friend's child, you see something, and you're like, maybe you need to get them services. Some people they feel like it's them. It's not at this point, it's not even about you, how you feel. It's about how the child's gonna be in the world and make sure they have the tools that they need to survive. Because
Right.
you're perfectly, you could do what you want to do, but this child needs the tools to be able to survive and to thrive in this world. We don't want our children, our babies to be behind because we are feeling away. You got to put your pride aside. You could cry a little bit. I'm not saying you can't cry because you're gonna feel like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? But everybody comes out different out the womb. And whatever a person might have, it doesn't matter. Because as she said, Einstein, her son, I was struggling in school for Regents, and I don't have an IEP. I probably needed one, to be honest. But that's a different story. But he got a whole Regents diploma from a child who could not speak to a child who's now speaking in front of audiences. You don't know what your child can be in the world. If you don't give them the tools to be the best them they can be, they will be nothing. They won't get far. But if you give them the tools that they need to be, just go for the stars, they'll become amazing people of society. And having a disability, having these things, it doesn't matter. It's what you do with it. It's how you bring them along. It's how you make them know that no matter what you have, you're still okay. You're just as good as anybody else around you. If just one thing is different, okay, who cares? Those people, they tend to be the most sweetest people. They tend to be the most inspirational people because they've been through worse than a regular average person, and they are doing better than a lot of people. Let's be honest. So
Mhm.
please, please, please do not deny your children the things that they deserve. She gave you some excellent information about where to go. Like, we're gonna get a little bit more into that, but where to go for these things. Make sure you know the rights, because a lot of times people, let's be honest, some people are lazy. They don't want to give you all that you need to get. But if you see certain things on your IEP, like she said before, that he could write with a pencil at this point. It's like he still no. Make sure everything what you need is updated. Because if it's not updated, they're gonna be still going back on the old things, but he needs to be progressing. That's holding your child back. And you don't want that to happen to you. Make sure you keep on top. I know I don't have a special needs child, right? But she has other stuff going on. So it's like, make sure you, if they don't get you one day, call and say what's going on. Hi, my child needs this. If you have to be that annoying, they said the squeaky wheel, be that squeaky wheel for your child, because they can't speak up for themselves and you have to do it for them. And you saw how she did it remarkable. She had a whole binder. I can imagine walking around with a binder with me with all these things and making sure people also, in general, with homelessness, with this, a lot of things, people just see a number or they see a chart or they see a name. I'm happy that she brought the face of her child so people understand this is the person you're talking about. It's not just a number out there or statistics or data. This is a person, and she brought a face to that person. And that's the best thing you could do. Bring your child around in your heart, bring them in your hand if you have to, and make them understand you're not just making laws or changing things based on just statistics. Statistics are great. We need data. Let's not go, we need data in the world to get certain things done. But these are people's lives you're talking about. And she made sure she got the things that she needed for her son to be able to flourish in life. And I know he's grateful. I know he's right. Like, because some kids did not get that. Let's be honest. A lot of kids of parents out there, they kind of, after the first year, they're giving up. I'm not saying it's like, but some people also don't have the resources what to get things at. But we are here to hand you the information. I can't walk with you throughout the steps, but I can definitely provide you with the information that you will need to make sure that your child can go the distance. And if you listen to this, your child is 5 or 6 and they still can't talk, because I've met some people and I'm like, maybe a baby needs some help. I'm just saying, it's still not too late. They might be a couple of years behind because it started too late. But take the information that we provide for you to make sure your child can get the best thing possible. I'm telling you. So I want
Right,
you to tell me again. You had different services. Like, did you go
right,
initially in the, because you said you started a little bit later. Did you call 311? Granted, this is from the 1996, but the stuff
right.
is usually the same in a way.
Yeah,
Some things might change, but they're usually kind of the same area. But what did you
I
get?
wanna, yeah, I wanna explain and be clear that our children, when they're in school,
Yes,
a lot of teachers have no idea, even the
true.
special ed teachers, what services are out there. And I need to make clear that there's two support groups that any parent should join, because you get what you need through masses. And I really believe it takes a village. So one of the groups that I want to mention, which are important, is includenyc.org. They have support groups, okay?
Right.
And then they also help, hold on a second, They also help with if you have a problem in school, you have your little one and he's entitled to get a para, and they saying they don't have a para, you reach out to this agency. They used to be called Resources for Children, but it's called includenyc.org. And go into their website. Another wonderful support group is Parent to Parent of New York State. You will find a lot of resources, including support groups. Another one is Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks been around for a while. Their website is incredible. There's a lot of resources, but you can't do this alone. You're going to need a support group because this is how you learn the ropes. I didn't know what OPWDD is, and OPWDD is a state services that you get. Okay, and that's the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities.
Okay.
And once you, if you fall under the criteria, right? If you fall under the criteria, you will you will get services at home. They come to your home, and you can get respite services, and you can get 4 to 8 hours of just a break where they help your child. And then as they develop, they will help them with homework. They will help them to get out in the community. It's called community habilitation, but you got to go through the front door. That's the name of the program, the front door through OPWDD. And this will also help your child. There's like 7 different disabilities, not just autism, that you're able to actually get services for.
Yes. And some of these services, what I understand, stays for you for the rest of your life. They'll check in. I want to say this is this program. So it's a good way. I'm like, we're not going to live forever. And we all parents want our kids to live after we are gone. And if you can get a program put in place while you're still alive, because you don't want to wait after you're dead, you can't do anything, right? You got to make sure things are in place for your children after you are gone. And this is one of the programs that will be helping you. From what I understand, I want to say somebody had told me, I'm not sure, this could be totally wrong. Like they check on your child at least once a week or so just to make sure they're on track with certain things, depending on what their particular thing is. Because she said they have different disabilities that you can go there for. So depending on how much, little or more they need, that's how they help you. And this is a good, I mean, this is a great resource to have. If you're a person in a shelter and you still are a little bit confused, a lot of shelters should have this part for the DOE, and you could ask them how can you get implemented in these certain programs and what school is the best for you and things like, especially if you're in a shelter and they just want to put you in any school, make sure they know you have a special needs child in a certain school they have to go to make this sure their education is best. So make sure if you want to get a transfer in and things like that, we have done different podcasts about that. Make sure they either put you into a school nearby. If they don't, you can see how they can help you with that. The advocate people can help you how to advocate to get out of that shelters to get into different schooling for your child. Because not if it's a classroom with 20 kids and your child has a hard time either being around people sitting still or even doing a certain type of work, maybe that's not the best classroom environment. And a lot of classrooms now is not even 20 kids. They have about 28, 29, 30 kids in the class. And for me alone as an adult, it's hard to struggle with that. So if your child needs some extra help, they should get the help that they need. Um, Anything else you would like to say about what the parents should go by and where they should look for certain things?
Well, it's important, and it saddens me that, as you mentioned, when you have your child and something's not right, when you first, go and you meet your pediatrician, on the form, it has all the milestone. Is he sitting up at 6 months? Pay attention to that. Pay
Yeah.
attention to that box where it says, he might be meeting some of the milestones. So what does it hurt to tell the doctor, you know what, he's doing this, but he's not doing that?
Right.
The information is there, and there's no excuse now. Whatever
Especially
you
now, yeah.
see, yes, there's no excuses. At the tip of this, we have our phones. It's on the tip of our fingers to get any resources that we want. Don't be afraid, because again, you're investing on your child that gonna be somebody incredible in this world, because we all got gifts. If focus on those gifts, don't focus on the disability, Focus on the ability, and they will get far. They will get far.
Sure. Yes, guys. I really hope this is helpful. I hope that now people could pay attention to their kids more and really seeing if that, something is wrong. And if it's wrong, it's not your fault. You just have to get the proper tools for them to thrive in life. And just I know probably also if you need therapy or counseling, go to somebody. Some people believe in it, some people don't. But counseling and therapy can, help a lot of people with different things for yourself as a parent. Because your child can't be the best they can be if you're not also your best. This might be depressing for some people. They don't understand how it's happening, but you have to also pick yourself up and make sure your child is getting what they need in life. And this is I hope please, please, please don't make our children just, not get what they need because we are thinking about ourselves. Really give them what they need to survive and
Fall
be
through
in
the
this world.
cracks. You don't want them falling through the cracks.
Yeah. We
Okay? You
definitely
don't
don't.
want that. You don't want that for
Yes.
sure.
So thank you guys so much for coming to the podcast one more time. Please follow us on social media. All the information that she has given to us in this podcast will be down below. I hope this could help anybody's family out there. If you're a person who knows a person who might need this, probably you want to say it like, your child needs help. Probably just send them over this podcast and hopefully they can get the picture about what they might need for them and their families. Please tune in next week to our podcast and thank you for being amazing people. See you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.